So we'll learn a message from the Rabbi from our parsha. Something from our parsha. To wake up the ones who fall asleep.
We did it yesterday.
We did it yesterday. So then I look at it, I see we did it, so we'll go to the next then. The next is, it says, Lenefesh leyitame ba'amov. A Kohen is not allowed to become impure for the reason of a funeral or things like that. So the heading of it is, God is like a Kohen Gadol. In the beginning of the parsha, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu to warn the Kohanim that they should not become impure, only to the 7 most close relatives: father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter, and a wife. Only these 7. The holiness of a Kohen Gadol is even more. He is not allowed to become impure even for these 7. It's known, the words of the Medrash, that everything Hashem told the Jewish people to do, He also fulfills Himself. And of that tells us the Gemara, Shemin, a heretic, someone who doesn't believe in God. Asked Rabbi, he says, since God is a Kohen Gadol, how can it be that which mikveh that God used after He buried Moshe Rabbeinu?
Who said that?
Yeah, he says, God is a Kohen, so that He says that a Kohen is not allowed to be Tomei. Okay, He decided for Moshe Rabbeinu, He went to bury him. Says Hashem Himself buried Moshe Rabbeinu. So the min asked the Rabbi, so which mikveh did Hashem used? Which mikveh did He go? So Rabbi answered him, He had the mikveh of fire. Tovel be'esh. We're asking what the goy asked. You have a good, I hear you. But the Gemara says you're teaching the goy what to ask. But the goy, or the min, I don't know if maybe it was a Jew, it says min, kofer, asked the question, which mikveh did Hashem use? So he told them the mikveh of fire. By the way, when our tradition is when a person passes away, we take the person to the mikveh before burial. And then when the shaman goes up, and the way to Gan Eden also goes through another mikveh of Nahar Dinur, a river of fire, in order to purify, to be able to go into Gan Eden.
Purifies the neshama.
Yeah. So the Eibishter went impure. So the Teisves, at that Gemara, Teisves is asking a question. How can it be that the Eibishter cleaned himself, but not on the question why Hashem made Himself impure to bury Moshe Rabbeinu? Hashem told the Kohen God is not allowed to become Tomei to anybody. So why Hashem went to bury? So the answer is because Yisrael, children, the Jewish people are called children, and a Kohen is allowed to unpurify himself for a child. And every Jew is a child.
Kohen is allowed to purify for a child?
For a child, seven, not Kohen Gadol, Kohen, regular Kohen. A regular Kohen is allowed to this. By the way, the Min didn't ask because Hashem is a Kohen Gadol. He says Hashem is a Kohen. So how did He purify Himself? How did He purify Himself after this? Teisva says, the question is, why did He went to, in the beginning, to become impure? Moshe Rabbeinu is not his son, and not a wife, and not a brother, and not a sister. And Teisva's answers, because every Jew is a child by God. So So a son, and for a son, a Kohen is allowed. Kohen Gadol is not allowed. But over here, the Goy's question was on the Hashem is a Kohen. He didn't go there that Hashem is a Kohen Gadol. Similarly, explains the Zohar. The Zohar says, it says on the Gula Asidu, when Mashiach will come, it says that in order to take, so Hashem will become impure, he'll come down in order to redeem every single Jew from Galus. And in Galus, we are not so pure. So Hashem will come down to take everybody from Galus. That's what the Zohar says. What's the question? Then we'll do it after. Okay? Okay. We're talking now what the Goy, what the Min asked, and we answer him. There's more questions you could ask. Okay, but that's not what he asked, and therefore that's not what the Gemara answers. So, seemingly, this explanation is not enough. What the Zohar says, and also what the Taisva says. Why is this answer not answer? Because God is not just a Kohen. God is actually Kohen Gadol. And a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to purify even for a son. So in that case, how did Hashem becomes impure for the Jewish people? Yes, there is a child, but a Kohen Gadol is not allowed even for a child. Okay, in order to understand this, we have to understand what does it mean. We have to understand the concept when we say that God is fulfilling everything that He tells us. So the question is what? Hashem al above has tefillin, has tzitzit, has a sukkah, has a lulav, that He could fulfill this mitzvah. And tefillin, we say in His tefillin is written one Jewish nation. But come on, the tzitzit, physical tzitzit, it doesn't have it. So when we say Hashem fulfills the mitzvot, we have to understand how does it work, what does it mean? You can't just say beautiful statements, we have to understand what it is. That's the job of this fifth level of Torah. Chassidus is looking in every mitzvah, everything we say a statement, anywhere in Torah, we have to understand it.
Compare that to when we learned the Ben Ish Chai, when I was saying about you are.
You are?
Hashem hand of Hashem, right? How do you
yes, correct.
With Ben Ish Chai, he's the one who really has a concept of the hand. We are just some kind of hint to the hand, really. That's what I can compare that to what you're saying right now about the tefillin, about the tefillin, about the I just can compare that's concept to
One second. This is a little different. When we say as a hand of Hashem, so Chassidus explains what does it mean a hand? A hand means something that a person has the ability to do, to change, to move things, to do things in this world. So physically, the hand looks the way Hashem created us in order we should be able to act in this world. The hand of Hashem means the part of God that He actually acts in this world or in the spiritual world. The action of Hashem is called hand because then we understand, says the Torah spoke to human beings in the language that we could understand. So when it says Yad Hashem means action of Hashem. When it says Ayin Hashem, eye of God, means this is His ability to see everything, and so on and so forth. But here is a question, how does He do the mitzvah? He told us we have to go out and do the mitzvah. How does He do the mitzvah? That's the question. Now we'll see what the Chassidus explains. But when we say that above tefillin, tzitzis, and sukkah doesn't exist, it's true. It means the way they exist by us. Meaning, the mitzvah is hader in the physical world that is recognized. We know what tefillin and mezuzah looks like here in this world. But the same thing exists above in the spiritual structure. Yeah, in the spiritual structure, not in the physical. More than that, the mitzvahs that accept here are only because they also exist above in spiritual, and from the spiritual world they came here, now they're physically. Not like above, they make like here, it's the opposite. The mitzvahs here come from above. Just above they are spiritually, here they become physically, because it's given to us, we should be able to fulfill it. Yes? Yeah, to become unpure. Well, usually the one who is not allowed to become Tomei cannot lishtatev b'funeral. But ishtatev b'funeral, for instance, if he walks into wherever there is a eulogy, he walks into the same room, he becomes unpure. If he comes too close to this, is also a problem, especially if he wants to carry it and so on.
Because for the Pesach Sheni,
yes.
And actually touched, I don't know what's happened.
What do you mean? There was no funeral from Pesach, for a whole month there was no funeral? Okay. No. Okay. Well, carrying a body is you become impure. No. So funeral is because it's connected with a physical body that is impure because he passed away. The problem is not the funeral. The problem is the cyst that is there, and that's where you don't become impure because you're on a funeral, because you're coming close to a dead body. That's the source of impurity. So I'm saying is usually you're right. So today a Kohen asks me, he wants to come to a funeral. So in the funeral home, we have a room for Kohanim, and the roof is separated from the whole building. So they're allowed to be in that room. Now they want to go to the cemetery. Cemetery is another problem. You come to the cemetery, even if you stay on the road. So we tell them you go with the car, and you stay near your car. The car park in the middle of the road of the cemetery. So you are at least 4, 5, 10 amas, make sure you have 3 meters from any grave. Not where the headstone, but the feet could be closer to you, but away from anywhere the grave is. But there's a problem, there is trees on the cemetery. Pardes Chaim doesn't have trees. Pardes Sholem has trees. Other cemeteries have trees. And if you are under a tree, and the same tree also is over a grave, and the Kohen is under this part of the tree, that's it, you're not allowed to go there. So you could go to the cemetery, stay in the car or by the car if make sure that it's far enough, but make sure there is no trees on top of you. But in general, the one who is not allowed to become impure shouldn't go there. More than that, yeah. Okay. So mitzvahs that exist here in this world are actually because the mitzvah spiritually is existing there. For this is clear, they're also above, we have also tefillin, tzitza, sukkah, and lulav. But it doesn't mean tefillin physical and sukkah physical, but to the spirituality that represents the godliness, the spirituality of this mitzvah. This way we could also understand. It's normal, that's it. This way we also understand what's brought by the Chazal on tefillin. The Rebbeishter puts tefillin, or the Rebbeishter is blowing shofar. That's not tefillin that is made from a physical skin of a body. It's not the shofar that comes from a horn from a sheep. We're talking about the spirituality that is much higher than the physicality. But in the center is the same idea that we do here in tefillin or with shofar. Hashem has the same mitzvah in a spiritual way. The idea is the same, but it's in a different forum. It's a spiritual forum, in a godly forum, not in a physical forum.
And he has to keep all the mitzvot this way.
And he keeps all the mitzvot because he doesn't have a body, so he does to do mitzvahs in the spiritual way. But this will understand that when we say that here is like it's above, doesn't mean it speaks only to the positivity of like above, but it doesn't include the negativity. What does it mean? If something in this world is limited because it is a physical world, that doesn't mean that above, the mitzvah above has the same limitation. The infinity, the positivity in the mitzvah above is perfect. But the negativity, the limitation of the mitzvah, because the physical is not there. Now we'll understand why are they not asking, how come God is Kohen Gadol? And he becomes impure for the Jewish people. This is a prohibition that Torah put on him, Kohen Gadol. He's not allowed to become impure. Because he is on the level of Kohen Gadol, so he's not allowed. So the Rebbe says, in essence, this level of Kohen Gadol is above Tumah. Kohen Gadol is such a spiritual level that he cannot become impure. But since he is in this physical world, and this physical world has limitations of a body, therefore it could happen. It's not because the level of Kohen Gadol, but because of the Kohen Gadol is in the body, therefore is not allowed to be impure. Really, Kohen Gadol is above becoming impure. It's a very high level of spirit, of godliness that cannot become impure. But being in the body, he has to be careful. But when we say Kohen Gadol in essence, that is hinting at Hashem, by Hashem there is no tumah could touch him. Because he is above all limitations, all structure of this world, so he's also above any tumah. The question is only about Kohen Hedget. A simple Kohen is this, that is above. How is he with tumah? But on the Kohen Gadol there's no question, because no tumah could touch Hashem. Therefore he was allowed to deal with bearing of Moshe Rabbeinu. And similarly, when time will come, to take every Jew out of Golus. Doesn't matter how impure that Jew will be, God is above becoming impure, so therefore he could come down, take every Jew by his hand, and take him out of Golus, and it doesn't affect him. Because the mitzvah that a Kohen Gadol is not allowed also says to Hashem, but it's not applicable because the Kohen Gadol here also is above impurity. Just because he's in the body, but Hashem is Kohen Gadol not in the body, then he has no problem of touching even tumah, because tumah cannot affect him. Yes?
Does that mean that every mitzvah up above is pure? There is no tamei at all?
Obviously.
And the only tamei is here.
Becomes here. Yes, yes. When Hashem does the mitzvah is totally pure. When we do a mitzvah, we have to work hard to make sure that the mitzvah is complete. Well, a mitzvah need, first of all, there is the rules how to fulfill the mitzvah. Sukkah has to have a certain size, a certain height, and from what you could make a sukkah, from what you cannot make a sukkah, and so on. But then when you do the mitzvah, it has to be for Hashem. And not that neighbors should see, I built a beautiful sukkah. Or just, I feel good, I built a sukkah this year, I have a sukkah in my house, I have a beautiful sukkah, I'll be able to invite guests. The mitzvah has to be because Hashem wants it. It has to be pure because Hashem wants nothing of me. The minute there's something of me, the mitzvah is already not pure. Above, they don't have that problem. In Gan Eden, they have that problem. In Gan Eden, they may do a mitzvah for their benefit, to see God, to feel God, but that's not desire of God. That's their desire. And that's why real mitzvahs, when do we make a bracha on a mitzvah? Above, they don't make a bracha on a mitzvah. Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvesov, he commanded us. Over there's no commandment of God to do mitzvahs. They just know this is the right way to live. And this is the right way to get godly revelation. Fulfilling a mitzvah is only here.
When you say Shemayim and Gan Eden are the same or are they different?
No. Shemayim means heaven.
Yeah.
In heaven, over here we see one world, but in our world, there's billions of details. There is birds, and there is animals, there is human, and there is trees, and there is stones, and there is stars, and sun, and moon. And above, the world above is much bigger than this world. Much bigger, in no comparison. This world is like a little something that you have to look at magnified glass if you look at it from there. And over there is Elam Asiya and Yitzir and Bria and Atzilus, and then goes Keser, then goes Elmus Ein Sof. There is billions of worlds, billions of levels till it comes to God Himself. God is above everything, obviously. So when we say the mitzvah above, it depends on which world.
When you say world, you mean all the universe, all the God?
No, when I say godly world, there is many worlds. Oh, physical world is only one world.
I mean, you mean universe with all the...
Yes, obviously. Yeah. Correct. But the only ones who have a mitzvahs to do is actually on this physical earth. Creatures on other planets don't have a mitzvah. Hashem, the Rebbe, by the way, somebody asked the Rebbe, how do you know? Maybe there is other what is it called? Other beings on other stars. The Rebbe says maybe, but Torah is only one, and God gave it to us. Means if there is creatures there, they don't have a Torah. Means they don't have free will. Means they are some kind of creatures who are running by God's programmed. There is no civilization like ours that people have freedom of choice. This we know from the Torah. Understanding there is one Torah, and Torah is given only to someone who has freedom of choice, because then you could fulfill or God forbid not. And that's the structure exists only in this world, means there is no other civilization anywhere else. And the rest, the Rebbe says, continue looking. You'll find civilization, we'll learn about it. But there is no Torah, and therefore there is no Jews there, and therefore there is no freedom of choice. So this is an interesting thing, that God is the Kohen Gadol who cannot become impure, and therefore he could deal with every single Jew. Similarly, in the morning we say Modeh Ani. The Rebbe says, why we say Modi before we wash our hands, after sleep, before we wash our hands, we're not allowed to say any words of Torah, any holy words. Because that's why in Modeh Ani that we say today, it's about a little over 500-600 years that this text became practical by the Jewish people. We have to see where the source and how it took apart. And there is no name of God. We say the Modeh Ani before we wash our hands. So the Rebbe says, because the Modeh Ani of a Jew touches his essence. And the essence of a Jew can never become impure. Always stays pure. So even you see a Jew in the street, or you look in your own mirror and you say, well, I'm so far from holiness, I'm so low, and so on. So we tell him, yeah, this is the way you look. And this is the way the Jew in the street looks. But there is inside in him a moment, the deepest part of his godly soul, that impurity cannot touch. As we just learned, God is above the ability to become impure. And so is the soul in every Jew. Therefore, no Jew will be left behind. No Jew can disappear. Because in every Jew there is a soul that never became impure, and therefore, end of days, it must come back. It will come back and connect with Hashem, with all the Jewish people, and be part of this. No Jew could ever be lost.
I have a question now, because then when the non-Jew or whatever heretic, he asked the question about where he goes to mikveh. So really we say he doesn't need mikveh. Why you need to answer that he goes to mikveh far?
What do you say to the goy? That he doesn't have to go to the mikveh, but he fulfills. Go explain him, God is above this, and what the Rebbe explained here, you wanted the Tana Abu should explain it to the goy. I guess he wasn't ready for that. The Rebbe explained it, now we could explain it to the world. Now we could explain it to the goy. When this became explained.
That level?
Whatever the questions when they ask,
but that's a myth.
They mean,
he says he has to go to mikveh, that means he has to go to mikveh.
Yeah, but halachically, a mikvah of fire doesn't purify here.
That's what he said. But still,
So-
meaning there is some impurity you need to clarify with.
But not by God.
Well, he could not lie. The Atana.
He didn't lie. He just said spiritual. The Neshama goes to Hardenur. You want to say, why did the Tana answer? How do we explain this?
Right.
The Zohar says that God will also become impure to come in this. It doesn't say how will he be cleaned. The Zohar doesn't touch that. The Rebbe explains that this level could never become impure, therefore doesn't need a mikveh. But when the mean asked Rabbi Bua probably to answer to the goy that Hashem doesn't need a mikveh is would be too hard to explain to him because Hashem is above becoming impure. So he's not doing the mitzvah. It's a mathematical head of a goy. He wouldn't. Spirituality is hard to explain.
There's a jacuzzi across the street. Go there.
Jacuzzi is not a mikveh.
No, for him, for the guy.
Next, verse